mentors really do matter. Mentors and sponsors do matter. Now, mentors you can cultivate yourself, because I found throughout my life that asking people for advice and reaching out to others when you're in a tough spot. I mean, that's to me a mentor, but to me, you've got to seek those out yourself. Sponsors are a little different. I've been lucky to have sponsors, but usually they found me, and you don't go out and necessarily say, I am going to go out and look for a sponsor, because they usually are observing you and you don't know it. So I've had, luckily, both people who have been both a mentor and a sponsor. And the first one was a guy named Dave Clack, who's still alive, by the way. I just talked to him this week. He's just so robust. He just turned 90. He said he's in his 80th year of skiing. He said, I'm going to be up in the slopes this winter. I'm going to be skiing. I'm thinking, wow, that is so inspirational. But that's the kind of person he was and is. He just is somebody that doesn't see barriers, doesn't see your color or your gender. He just sees some person who really wants to achieve and do well. And he saw that in me at a very young age. And he would always have a philosophy, though, that again, it's not about you, which is this is sort of the theme of my grandfather too, because he actually quoted his grandfather, who told him, and this is an expression that stuck with me, the more you give, the more you get back. It's an unending circle. And he said, you don't do things because you get stuff back, but you do things because it is part of the circle of life. And it eventually comes back to you in ways that you don't see it, you don't know, you don't even know. But as a business and a business person, that we really have to pay attention to the community and what we derive from the community, and that our businesses in our communities. And so to give back and spend time volunteering, encouraged us to get politically active. I mean, all those things that I would have just never thought of, because I never saw that as a connection to business. But he said, no, in fact, that is a key part of business. If you're going to be successful, you better be giving back and really paying attention to how healthy is your community and your customers and your employees, because it's really the unending circle, right? So that was something I know gets talked about a lot today, but didn't get talked a lot about back then. But he's definitely been the embodiment of that. So that's one mentor in my early career. My later career was a mentor and a sponsor also. So the bank eventually got sold to another bank, and Dave introduced me to the person who became my next mentor and sponsor, a guy named Gary Cameron. And again, I didn't know Gary, he didn't know me, but Dave said, this is a rising star. She's now the manager of a number of our branches in Eastern Washington. And, I'd really appreciate it if you'd kind of look out for her and her career. And he did. And I don't know why, we just clicked. Gary and I clicked too. And, we ended up having some hobbies in common. We were both from Eastern Washington, liked to golf. We just talk about issues in general, but we found a nice friendship, I would say, as well as kind of a boss subordinate relationship. And he eventually became a sponsor. So he would always tell me to get ready. And his expression was always get ready. I'd say, get ready for what? I'd say, just get ready. He'd say, you never know in your life what door opens, what door closes. He shared with me that he grew up as a foster kid. He was kicked from one home to another. And he said, doors would close all the time, but I would always be ready for the next door that would open. And sure enough, another door would open, another door would open. He said, you just have to be ready for those opportunities emotionally and education and all of that, but be ready. And I thought that was interesting, but I wasn't really sure what that meant. So one day he called me, and I was managing all the branches in Eastern Washington, and he called me and said, I'm coming from Seattle. He's the president of the bank now, and flew to Spokane, took me to lunch. I said, well, so what's up, Gary? And he said, I want you to take this big job. You have to move to Seattle, by the way. And, you're going to be managing all of the branches for the whole bank. And I said, well, how long do I have to think about it? He looks at his watch. He said, about an hour. And I thought, an hour? And he said, remember I told you get ready? I said, oh my God, but my husband's got a job here. And I just always thought I'd stay in Spokane. I never saw myself ever moving. He said, Phyllis, remember about the taking risks, getting ready. said, wow, I mean, I can't even imagine moving and all of that. But, I ended up doing it, and my husband followed me, which was, it's amazing of him. And, it ended up being obviously the trajectory that took me to the next level, but he really pushed me at that point. And the next thing that happened was the same thing, get ready. He called me about 2 years after this promotion and said, up to his office again, and said, what do you want to do next? I said, I just got this big promotion. I never thought I'd ever be the head of all the branches. And he said, what do you want to do next? And I couldn't think of anything. So I said, well, I don't know. You're the president of the bank. How about your job? Because I just thought, I didn't even know what I would want to do. And then I said, oh, 5 years from now. He just smiled and said, okay, fine. Well, 2 weeks later, he called and said, you're going to be the next president of the bank. I said, I just don't think I can do that. I'm sorry. I just don't think I can do that. He said, you're ready. In fact, you're more ready than most of the guys who have been hanging around my doorstep thinking they're ready. So, those are two, I think, people that I, think about when I think about mentors, sponsors, people that give you these lessons in life. And they do it because, they're paying it forward, probably from somebody else who helped them.